his charms, charms. As long as there's the two of us. Hold each other's arms, yes we will, yes we will. Win a little, lose just a little. And sometimes with the blues a little. Oh, but baby, baby, oh, baby, oh, baby. Say glory, 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 glory. Oh, baby. It's the glory of love. Thank you. Thank you.
So, lots going on. I drove on the way here. I drive by St. Ambrose Catholic Church and School on the way here, and it's always kind of one of those things in your vision that sometimes you can't name every road you go by when you're going to a particular place. But I know on Sunday mornings that when I drive past this church, the road is crowded and people are running across the street, and it does its thing. And this morning there was one car in the parking lot. I literally drove to the next stoplight and stopped my car and began to doubt what day of the week it was. So I came here anyway. I want to thank you guys for being here. Just to make sure. So there was this lovely lady who was visiting her church for the first time, wanted to kind of check it out, the one close to her house. And the speaker was going on. The sermon seemed to go on forever, as they might do sometimes. And she looks around and notices that some of the congregants are starting to doze off and drop their heads. I've seen that from up here myself. But after the service, she goes over to the social area and wants to be friendly and social, and she introduces herself to one of the gentlemen who happened to be one of the sleepy ones in the service. And she extends her hand kindly and says, "Hi, my name is Gladys Dunn." And he says, "Boy, me too. I'm glad it's done too." It's September, a new month, new theme, lots of things going on. As we said, it is love as community service, hearts of service, we might say. We dedicate our time, talent, treasure, and expertise to the healthy and joyful evolution of our spiritual community, the community in which we live, and the greater community of the world. There are 4 Sundays this month. 2 of those Sundays we have special speakers. Next Sunday, of course, we mentioned Reverend Donald Graves will be here. He is an amazing instructor, teacher, speaker, and workshop facilitator. So he'll be speaking and do a workshop afterwards, and we hope that you'll sign up for that. It's called Invent Yourself. And he is pretty phenomenal. Last time we couldn't stay in the room because there were so many people. We had the workshop out here. So maybe you'll join us for that. And he is retired, and a lot of us refer to him just as Donald because we've known him for a long time. But he will always be an ordained minister of the Centers for Spiritual Living. So now that I know this position, I say Reverend Donald, and he might like that when he comes up here. Make him feel special. The last Sunday of the month is the completion of our new minister co-creation. Now, we've been talking about this a little bit. You're going to have a whole lot more details that are going to come up over the next 2 weeks. There is a very special event that is happening Thursday, September 21st. Thursday, September 21st.
6:30.
Thursday, September 21st. Okay, I'm repeating that because this is going to be an amazing event. Reverend Dr. Penny Masick is coming up from Phoenix. She's trained in a particular kind of co-creation. There are 2 kinds of co-creation. This one is to do some deep work about what we know as ministry, where we've come through all the years of the past that this center's even been here. September 21st, 6:30. Where's Rob? Come here. Rob has a special
We
message.
want their voices here. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So let's jump into, we may go a few minutes over today because of our little announcements, but they were very important. Tomorrow's Labor Day. We're in Labor Day weekend. Besides the barbecues and the family picnics and the last day at the local pool, what is Labor Day? Some people confuse Labor Day and Memorial Day, actually. Labor Day was a creation of the labor movement and is dedicated to the social and economic achievements of the American workers. It constitutes a yearly national tribute to the contributions workers have made to the strength, the prosperity, and the well-being of our country. And it's the origin of the 8-hour day movement, which advocated 8 hours of work, 8 hours of recreation, 8 hours of rest. I didn't know that. I love the research I do for these things. So we're going to talk a little bit about work and service and how love kind of moves through some of that. Surprise. So the topic is love as service. It's all about me. I know that little phrase may kind of make you wonder just a little bit, but I'm going to talk about service as a form of love, work as a form of love and maybe service, and show that it really is about me because everything begins with me. Everything begins right here. How we think and feel about everything we do, it comes from that love within. By working with love and serving from love, we are served personally. By serving others, whether it's in community service or our jobs, our employment, our vocation, we change the world. I like that song, was to change the world. It really is about me, it's about you. The spiritual living that we teach, and teach by example, focuses on interpersonal growth. And the idea of that will then lead each person to the realization that they're not only just one with universal mind creation, but we are one with every single living thing, right? That's what we teach. We are one with everything. That's how we're connected. Dr. Ken Gordon, who's the spiritual leader for the Centers for Spiritual Living, has a little 4-minute talk he does every Sunday online. I'd love to figure out how to get a link to put in the newsletter so we could, people could look at that when they want to, because he's such a good speaker, and his image is so clear in what he provides when he talks. But he begins this week by stating that we can never outgive God. What we give comes back to us from that center of source, from God. And it's always, what comes back is always more than we give. When we give of our time, our talent, and our treasure, what many of us experience is that it does all come back around. Service is important in our culture, and we teach service as a spiritual practice. When we give of ourselves, we spend ourselves out in the world gives back to us. When I volunteer, I suddenly find myself with more time, more abundance, a feeling of greater productivity, because I have reached myself and pressed myself back out into the community. And I feel like I'm actually developing a greater sense of connection. And it's not for just a return factor of something to come back to me, but what's happening is that I find myself in that flow, in that connection of giving and receiving. And it helps me understand more about myself. Who am I? What is the connection I have with that person that I just gave my time to? We have a community project coming up next week. Next Saturday, September 9th, is the CSL World Day of Service. And we're hoping that some of you will join us in that. And if you have any, the information is out on the activities table. We'll hope that you'll speak with me or Pat Shook today and ask a few questions about it. Because we're going to give of ourselves. And this is a project that has a special connection to people here, to some of the people here in our community. So they have a pull to be there and to work with that. There are many places and people and projects right now that need help and support. And what works when you're looking for a project to do, something to do, A good place to start is to check in with yourself and look at all the different projects and people out there that need support and start to feel what resonates with you. What resonates and has meaning for you where you can give yourself to that project. You take the time to look at it, to feel what that connection is, because when you give from that place of love first and that resonance, it's very powerful. It makes a difference. You find yourself in that natural flow of circulation of giving and receiving at both ends. When you give and volunteer for something that pulls to you, you find that what you get back comes from a real place of goodness. You find yourself in that place of goodness that comes back to you abundantly. And it's not because you're giving to get something back. It's because when you reach out and from that place of resonance, you find yourself in that natural law of circulation, and that is what pulls you. You look at why are you giving to one thing or another, but when you come from that place of that connection and you can feel it, that's what's different. Can you think of a time that you volunteered for something or you said yes to something because you knew it was a really good thing, but you really didn't feel it in your heart? Did it feel more like a chore? Did you have to kind of talk yourself into it? Did you have to kind of make believe that this was really a place where you belonged in the moment? And sometimes you can feel like you're swimming upstream in the mud and you think you're really doing a really good thing for where you are, but your heart's not really there. I think we've all kind of done that at one time or another. But when you give from a place from your heart that you connect to, that makes the difference. And so when we say that when you give from that place and what circulates and comes back to you can be even greater than what you expected, you're getting back from that same resonance of love and support. So just picture for a minute when you're in that volunteer thing or in that service where you really didn't quite want to be there, but you felt like you had to be there, and then what are you projecting out into it, and then what comes back from you from that point? It may not be the same, just not quite the same. To really be in tune with this, you may discover that you never give more than you get. You never give more than you get. Because you're giving from your heart, and you may feel like you're giving all you got, but actually that's that place again where spirit comes back around, that law of circulation comes back and giving it back to you even greater than you thought. So that's where you don't outgive God. When you've given from that place of connection, that's bringing it back to you even greater and amplified. So that's good. I gave it all I got, and wow, what came back to me was something that I never expected, because it came from love and it comes back to you from love. So let's make that connection in employment and in business. Raymond Charles Barker is a New Thought writer and a minister of religious science. He was, I believe he's passed on. He says in his book, Money is God in Action, that when we incorporate spirit into our working lives, things change. There's a harmony and a well-being that shows up in almost every person in every corner of the office. It affects your workplace. When we've done our work in our own consciousness, we make space to allow spirit to express itself in our working life environment. One of the greatest ways to create demonstration in our lives is to activate our sense of blessing and gratitude in our life by serving others. It may not be easy on some of the jobs that we've had, but when we practice the principles of oneness, then we have that connection. And we can easily see where the divine is working in all those little spaces and how that can show up. Joe Goldsmith says there's a reward that comes with the feeling that comes from having served one's fellow man or having served God in service through one's fellow man. But we're apt to forget that service we perform for each other is not really for each other at all. In serving each other, we are serving the Christ within. We're serving God, and it makes no difference whether we're serving our family or contributing to the Red Cross. We're not doing it unto human beings. We're doing it unto Christ within ourselves, the Christ of our own being. We're only serving in the manner of that Christ, when the service you give to your fellow man is really your devotion to God or Spirit, made manifest in the least of these, my brethren. Khalil Gibran, author of The Prophet, is largely based on the talks that the Baha'i leader did when he came to the United States. Another interesting fact. And the prophet says, "You work that you may keep pace with the earth and the soul of the earth, for to be idle is to become a stranger unto the seasons, and to step out of life's procession that marches in majesty and proud submission towards the infinite." Work is love made visible. And if you cannot work with love, but only with distaste, it's better that you should leave your work and sit by the gate of the temple and make alms to those who enjoy their work. One of the basic tenets of the Baha'i faith is that work is the spirit of service in worship. Could you go to work and think you were worshiping all day long where you are now? That's a practice. Ernest Holmes says there's no such thing as an individual anything in the universe. There is nothing that is absolutely individual by itself. And I add to that because the truth for me is that the creator is the substance of everything that it creates. So that's why we say you cannot be separated from that thing that made you. So I have these images in my head this week, and maybe a lot of us have them. They're constantly flowing of the pictures I've seen of people in the water in Texas, walking in the water, carrying their things, and then there's someone who comes to help them and support them, carrying their belongings for them. There's the images of the people in the boats moving as fast as they can to help assist and rescue someone. And why are they doing that? Why do they care? Why are they not concerned only with their interest and their belongings and their families and getting out of the water and getting away? What's different about that? Feeling that connection, wanting to help someone in need in an emergency situation is important, and it's the right thing to do. And you hope that someday, if you're in an emergency, someone will be there for you. And when you help, you know you've made a difference. You learn that to give in service is to give from the heart. And to give from the heart is unselfish. And that when it comes back to you like that, it's not the full reason you're doing it. You're doing it because the other person that you're helping holds a piece of you. There's no such thing as an individual anything in the universe. That's you and yourself that you're helping in those times of need. Deepak Chopra, as I mentioned in the newsletter, speaks about the effect of happiness and what that has on our physical and emotional well-being. And he says that happiness is assured when we express compassion by helping others. So what's evolving around us right now in the world? What's real? Many things are shifting. We're loving ourselves, loving humanity. We're giving ourselves and coming to terms with the truth of how when we help someone in such a way, we don't really know what that's going to do for us. We can't see the whole picture, but we know that it expands the space around us. We're a drop in the ocean, and the ocean itself, as Kurt spoke about a few weeks ago. We're not just an island. There's no such thing as an individual anything in the universe. The planet and humanity and people are all going through a lot of shifting right now, of chaos, disheveling, and change. And some people are the ones in the high water, and some are the ones in the boats doing the rescuing and the giving, and some are on the sidelines. I have a thing about earthquakes. I even had to be hypnotized one time because I was so scared of an earthquake. And even on my little weather map, I have the filter that shows me where the earthquakes are and how many they are and when they show up and what time they show up, because I get frantic about that. There were 11 earthquakes in Idaho last night, right above the Utah border. So, yeah, yikes. So how does, if we're not in water, I watch myself this week looking at television like, where's a safe place to live? If we're not on the coastline in the water, are we in the Midwest with the tornadoes? And then we're here, it's like, what? So there's lots of things going on. How many people heard about the floods happening on the other side of the planet? Did you know that? A few people. India right now is 30% of India is underwater. They're having the worst monsoons they've had in 10 years. 5.5 million people are affected. Food, crops, farmlands started washing away in April, 6 months ago. It's time to come together as a whole, physically, spiritually, and consciously. We can get so absorbed in the box of our own world and not know what's happening. I didn't know about the floods. Well, heard about it on Twitter. And not because I was looking up weather, but because I was looking up characters from Game of Thrones. And one of the Game of Thrones characters from England says, "What are you people doing? 12,000 people have died in India from floods, and all I'm hearing about over here in England right now is Harvey, is Hurricane Harvey." So our box can get so small that we only see what we want to see so we don't have to deal with it. Right? But the world is happening. Lots of things are going on out there. So we're connected to all of that. I was trying to figure out how to mention Joel Osteen today. With all the stuff that's going on about him and his Lakewood church not opening up to hold people. And then he did open up to let people in. And how do you talk about that? Because after reading all of the articles and everything they've said about him and the directions and, of all the judgments and what they said, I was exhausted. There was nowhere to go but around in a big spiral. They went after him for his wealth, his theology, his wife, even added in the evils of New Thought in some of these articles, topped it off with God punished Texas because they allow homosexuals to live freely. Okay, I don't think any of that's true. What I did learn from the article was something really important, or from all those articles, was something really important to think about. Do we judge others for the reasons that they are serving? And do we base our judgment on how, or for our own reasons that we serve, or that we think we should serve? And are we judging them because where we think their heart is or is not? And are we judging them without knowing the whole story? Charles Eisenstein has a beautiful book. Listen to this title, "The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible." Isn't that lovely? The more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. And he says, sometimes it's not clear to me if I've done something out of direct, uncontrived desire to serve, or if the real motive was to show myself or others that I'm good, to confirm my membership in an in-group, to avoid self-censure or the censure of others, or to fulfill my duty as an ethical person. Do we have that question for ourselves? I think if we go within, we do our work, we be in spiritual practice of living our connections to others and to all, we know where and when and how to serve. And we know how to respond in every emergency situation, because it won't be our ego and our head telling us what to do. It will be our heart and it will be spirit telling us what to do. So we can start small. We start close. We start right here and we take baby steps. Love yourself first. To see and remember that you are the center of God's love. No matter how you feel you've been treated throughout your life, what your regrets are, what your resentments are, what you want to compare yourself to, you are the love of God. I'm reminded of a children's song. I love myself so I can love you, so you can love you, and you can love me. Then look out your eyes, which are the eyes of God. And what can you notice? Who needs a helping hand? Where in your life do you need a helping hand? Are you comfortable asking for help? Can you help others, but you can't ask anyone to help you? When that happens, are you holding someone else back from their service? And there's another reminder. New mothers are told to remember to take care of themselves, to let somebody else tend their babies so they can refill themselves, their energy and all of their light, to take some time. And they can then give a more fuller presence to their children and their families. And if we all took time to do that, we would refill ourselves with love and compassion and caring in a recognizable way for ourselves and for others. And then you have that connection to others rekindled in a fuller way. Yes? So life is all about us. Living is all about us. And supporting where and how we live is all about us and our connection. So I invite you to sit with that this week. And listen to your heart. And listen to what feels good. And listen to what calls to you. Because there's so much out there that you can do, and allow people to do for you as well, and let that circle back around. Yeah. So I'd like to call up our practitioners so we can take this idea into prayer. And to those who are visiting with us for the first time, our prayer is a 5-step affirmative prayer spoken in first person. As you hear the words, you can take these words in as your own, and if necessary, translate into your words for your relationship with God. I go within. I take that breath and recognize and remember that this entire life that I have is a life that's created by that source of all life, that presence of the divine that has created everything here in its image, which is love, which is connection, and which is good. That thing that resonates within the spark and light and heart of every individual in this room. I am of this, I am connected to this, and in that I am connected to every person here, and to every person and everything really that lives on this planet. We are all one. Within the heart of each individual, there is that spark that rests and desires to be fed. It is the spark of service and of love, of loving self and loving the other person, loving enough to recognize the connection of love and to recognize that helping in service, whether it's our daily job of giving in that place or the emergency service and giving of that place, is all to help the life and humanity as a whole. So I'm grateful to know that this exists within me and exists within everyone else. And speaking the word today about that allows that to grow. And it is just the reminder and the remembering of the oneness that allows our heart to light. And that is good. I know great blessings for this. I give great blessings and gratitude and thanks to those helpers and people in the Houston area and Texas and every track where that storm has gone. And even as preparations begin to form and ideas about the next storm coming in, or whatever is happening on the planet in India everywhere, I give great thanks for those who are coming together and knowing that there are great resources still to be revealed. For God does take care of its own, just as each person takes care of their own, which is the next person standing still. So I give thanks. Give thanks to all the messengers, the teachers, the rabbis, the ministers, the priests, everyone who brings this word of good. For I know it is a healing. And so with great joy and love, I release this word into that law, that mechanics that makes it so, and let it move through that spirit word. And so claiming this together, we take it and say, and so it is.